My name is Paul Perrin. I created Radio Free UK, and this is my take on David Cameron's official Remain EU leaflet. An important decision for the UK. Yes, it is an important decision that will affect you and generations to come. Remember, nothing is signed or confirmed. Certainly no treaty has been changed. In fact, many EU leaders have suggested they won't actually agree to these things. And some countries may even need their own referenda to decide whether to accept them. And if we've already voted to remain, why would they accept them? We will not join the euro. OK, that's good. But despite promises, we still keep bailing it out. The euro seems to have been a disaster for everyone except Germany. I really don't understand why the other countries aren't abandoning it. We will keep our own border controls. It's good that we won't be losing any more control. But we have very little control anyway. The UK will not be part of further European political integration. We never asked for any political integration in the first place. The last referendum was for the European Economic Community Common Market, not political union. And we've already signed the Lisbon Treaty, which agrees to much greater integration. So this will be happening anyway. There will be tough new restrictions on access to our welfare system for new EU migrants. Good. We can't afford to pay benefits for thousands of people who have never paid in. But these restrictions need to be asked for and agreed by all other members every time they're needed, before they're applied. And why would other countries agree? We have a commitment to reduce EU red tape. Well, cutting red tape is obviously good. Not as good as not having it in the first place. And while existing red tape is being cut, how will we make sure they don't just create more red tape? The headline issues mostly seem to be stopping or slowing things down. But things have already gone too far. There's nothing here about rolling anything back, nothing about bringing back powers, which is what Cameron promised before the election. Yes, this is an important date. It's important to vote leave. Get a postal vote if you aren't going to be at home. A stronger economy. Full access to the EU single market. The one that makes us buy half-power light bulbs, half-power vacuum cleaners, half-power kettles, half-power toasters. I don't mind EU companies making this stuff and selling it to the EU if they want to, but I don't want to buy it myself. I want the real full-power stuff. Preferably made in the UK, but made elsewhere in the world, if no one here wants to make it. Outside the EU, UK manufacturing costs will be lower, so we'll export more to the EU and to the rest of the world. And we'll be able to import from anywhere in the world we choose. Over 3 million UK jobs are linked to exports to the EU, and 5 million EU jobs are linked to exports to the UK. Improving our lives. Would put pressure on. Would risk higher. So, nothing definite. Losing our full access to single market. We've covered that one. Companies can still sell into it, but UK consumers should have the choice of shopping anywhere from any market in the world. Travel to the continent was far easier when I was a child. We had British visitors' passports, valid for 2 years and available from your local post office. We used to have duty-free for stocking up on tobacco and alcohol, especially before special occasions. Both of these things have gone since we joined the EU. And it wasn't the EU that dug the Channel Tunnel. Airfares are down, but they're down globally, not just in the EU. And mobile phone roaming charges are being abolished globally too. Risk of higher prices for certain household items. Research figures show that food is 17% cheaper outside the EU. This is a leaflet from the Better Off Out campaign, who've been opposing our EU membership for years. What happens if we leave? Well, we can just use World Trade Organization rules and leave immediately. We don't have to unpick anything right away if we don't want to. Only 8% of EU exports come to the UK. The figures I've seen say it's 15%. And UK goods would be cheaper for the EU once we left, especially if the value of the pound went down. We could get a real boost to EU trade once we leave. What's this could, again? Why aren't they sure? This is supposed to be government facts. Anything could happen. Controlling immigration and securing our borders. Uncertainty outside, compared to the certainty inside of the EU allowing French and Germans to subsidise their steel industry, while the EU bans Britain from doing so. Yes, we can check people at our borders, but not do anything about them. If they have an EU passport, they can come and go as they please. The changes that have been negotiated to benefits mean that we must ask the EU on a case-by-case basis, and they all need to agree to let us limit them. If I were them, I'd not agree to it. Why would they allow us to cut benefits to their own citizens? USA, China, etc. sell to the EU single market, but don't allow free movement. We share intelligence and security information with the USA and other countries, and they're not in the EU. What do they mean control? We can look at people's passports, but we can't control whether those with EU passports can actually come in or not. The benefits of EU membership. The Lisbon Treaty has transferred just about all possible powers. It's just going to take a decade or so for it all to be implemented, but it's already been agreed. The government have the Office of National Statistics and the Office of Budgetary Responsibility to check their figures, because the government alone can't be trusted. Who has checked the government's judgment on this? Especially the £10 million spent on this leaflet. And remember, every international body was saying that we must join the euro or it would be an economic disaster for us. But we didn't, and it wasn't. Just look at Greece, Italy and Portugal, who did join. The experts were wrong then, and they're wrong now. And how do you think your children will get jobs in other EU countries when their own children can't? The vast majority of EU countries have far higher youth unemployment than the UK. That's why so many of their young are coming here. EU membership brings economic security, peace and stability. Again, just look at Greece. A once-in-a-generation decision. The government thinks we should vote to remain, but I don't. Being in the EU means no one ever knows who is responsible for what or where their money is going. The government blame the EU blame our government. People know that they want affordable housing, food, health and education, but the buck never stops. Let's leave the EU, so we know where the buck stops, with us and our own elected government at Westminster. It really boils down to whether you want to make your own decisions, directly or through your elected MP in Parliament at Westminster. Or do you want future decisions to be made by the unelected Commission, who are the unaccountable EU government in Brussels? If the government really believe they have a case, why did they spend £9 million of our money on creating and distributing this leaflet ahead of the official campaign launch? Campaigns will receive only £1 million of our money, and their spending will be legally capped at £7.5 million in total, a cap lower than the price of this single leaflet. Vote in the EU referendum. Vote for the UK to leave the EU and regain our independence, to create a bright new future for us and our children.